Hello lovely people, I'm Catherine and welcome to this week's journal for all seasons. Don't be scared by the pink roses, well I don't know why you would be. I'm going to do grid journaling. I have had a really busy week or two and I've had so much sort of practical stuff that I have to do going around in my head that I've not really had any thoughts about, you know, emotion processing and so on. But I thought then maybe that is... Oh, here comes Fred passing through. Are you going to stop there or are you going to carry on? You're going to stop there. I'll carry on talking while he's there. Yeah, maybe that in itself is a thing. You know, sometimes we just have so much stuff going on in our heads that we don't really have the headspace to sit and think about our thoughts. Does that make sense? Our feelings. So my go-to, I've said it a few times when I'm stuck, and it's not that I'm stuck really, but is collage, and I thought I'd take that one step further and do just some mixed media. And I thought of just doing a spread, but then I thought, well no, let's have some structure because there's all this stuff going on, and I think it's nice then to kind of have a framework. You know, if I've got a lot of stuff going on, I like to make lists and try and organise myself. So I thought, well, maybe I could do that today with my creative process and go back to revisit grid journaling, which is something I've done quite a lot of in the past. And actually we did it in cloth last year if you followed the slow stitch journal. So what I've done is I've just marked off on my double page some squares that are about 3 inches square, just how it worked out with the width of my washi tape. If you don't have washi tape or tape, you can just draw, you know, with a pencil and a ruler, draw yourself a grid. And I've decided to limit myself to black and white, and I do have some words for the end, which I'll tell you right at the end. But I've assembled some black and white stuff basically. So I've been through my collage scraps and I've got this little box here, and in it I've put just some black paper and white paper, black and white basically. That's got some, that's blackish, that little bit of it. So just bits of black and white paper, different kinds. And then I've got I think I'll just use a glue stick where I can, although I have got the Mod Podge in case I need something a bit beefier. I've gone through my pens and pencils. You'll see gold, I'll talk about that later. I've got a black Posca pen, which is an acrylic paint pen, and a white ditto Posca pen. I've got my black Uniball gel pen and my white Uniball, is it Uniball? Yes, gel pen. I've got a black watercolour pencil crayon, black micron pen, a white watercolour pencil crayon, a black charcoal pencil, a very soft one, and then I've got a black and a white pastel if you prefer. Gold, I thought at the end I might do some little bits of bling because I'm a bit obsessed with this lovely gold paint. So I've also got a cheap gold brush pen and a gold gel pen as well standing by, but those will be at the end. I'll put them to one side. And then the other thing I've got is my white gesso, which is coming to the end, so I've got it inverted in this jar to try and get the last bit out, and my black gesso. But I would say, you know, if you want to do monochrome, just go and find whatever you've got that's black and white. If you don't want to do monochrome, do, you know, whatever colours you like. So I've marked off my grid and I've got 6 each side, so 12 in total. And I'm going to start, because this blank page thing is quite intimidating. You could maybe take this opportunity, if you wanted to write some kind of journaling thoughts in your squares, if you had, you know, thoughts and feelings that you wanted to journal about. And you can even write, you know, maybe slightly negative stuff that you want to kind of get rid of and cover, because I'm going to do collage and paint and I don't know what else. So you could do that. I'm just going to do squiggles, just to, they call it breaking the page. So I'm just going to pick this, I've picked the black watercolour crayon, and I'm just going to do anything. This is going to get covered up, probably. So you can just play and just make whatever marks you think. I've also got 2 different textures of paper here. I've got this artist canvas paper, which is a different experience to draw on than this, which is just a sketchbook paper. And this is just kind of a loosening up exercise really, because none of this will probably show. You could even try with your non-dominant hand, making some marks. Can change to a different pen or pencil. Let's try with the micron. Listen to the different noise that makes, and that it kind of judders over that textured surface. You could do some asemic type writing, you know, as if you're writing but it doesn't actually say anything. That's quite fun as well. I like to do that also kind of vertically. A different tool. Let's try the Uniball. Yeah, so I would encourage you to have a go with all the different implements that you've picked out and just play, just make some marks, and you know, no pressure whatsoever, because all this is going to be covered up. It's just about loosening up, exploring how the tools you've chosen react with the surface that you're working on. This poor little square's got nothing in it. Maybe I'll get my black pastel and use that on its side. That makes a lovely dark mark. And that, of course, you can blend with your finger. And then I can take what's on my finger and put it somewhere else. It's great fun. It's just a great loosening up exercise. And then you can just keep doing that, you know, as long as you like, really, until you feel you're ready to move on. You could only do that if that's what you wanted. You know, you don't have to do the collage and the paint and all that. You can just do mark making in all the squares. You know, you could do more. I mean, I've done very random organic-y type marks. You know, you could do more definite marks. And just try and stay in the process and think about the marks you're making, and you know, maybe why you're choosing to make those marks in particular and not another kind of mark. You might have go-to doodles, many of us do, when we're on the phone or, you know, on hold waiting to speak to somebody or other, and they're playing that awful music. You doodle, don't you? Right, stop. See, it's great. I mean, if I wasn't doing this video, I could perfectly capable of going on doing that for hours. I think I might get a clip and just clip that down. It's because it's got my pop-up from last week behind. Boop. So it's just making the page stand up a bit. And just clip it down. That'll do, pig. Right. So then you can go from there. There's no right or wrong. You know, just go with whatever you feel like doing next. I think I might do some collage next. I like these. These are barcodes off a label, but they're great for black and white, and these graphic lines. And the idea is that you work all over the place at the same time. You know, you don't do one square perfectly and then move on to the next one. I mean, you can if you want to. If that's what you want to do, you do that. But the idea to liberate yourself is that you don't get precious about one particular square. That you, you know, that you keep moving about. That makes sense. So stick this little bit down somewhere. Where do we think he wants to go? It's not thoughtless, it's mindful, but it's trying not to overthink, really. You're not producing a masterpiece. We're just having fun. And I find this way is a little bit more kind of structured than just doing a full page of collage. I don't know, there's something about having this little framework to work in, and it's great at the end when you take your tape off, if you've taped, you know, and you see all the individual little squares. That's a great moment. And I could put two of these in the same square if I want to. I don't have to put one in every square. In fact, I don't think I do. Definitely don't want to just put one in every square. But again, you do you. I'm not even that bothered if it doesn't stick down particularly well. because there'll be more stuff going on over the top. Let's move on to something else. This, which is off a bag. It's going to have this kind of text on it, but now it can become just a mark. Whoops, dropped it. Put it there, that's where it wants to go. I'm a work round the edger kind of girl. I know some people, they start in the middle and work their way out. I always tend to start around the edges. I don't know why, but it's just something that I've observed about myself. Well, it's things like that that I think are interesting while you're doing this sort of stuff. Let's put that up there. Just, you know, because you get to learn also about what you like, what pleases you aesthetically. What you kind of instinctively go to is probably what you like the look of. Does that make sense? So just be a little bit aware of that. And you know, you don't have to do the mark making, then the collage, then the painting. Let's go in the middle just to try and challenge myself a bit. And that was a circle, so it was kind of inviting me to put something in the middle of it. You know, you can do a bit of collage and then go back to scribbling, and or mark making as they call it, but really it's scribbling. Oh no, it isn't. It is more. There's more thought behind it than just scribbling, isn't there? I'm being a bit facetious. And the glue stick doesn't work great against this artist canvas, but it's good enough for this purpose. Right, I think I am going to go back to some. I like this dark. Some mark making. And then you can also mark over the collage, of course, if you want to. I just think it's interesting. You've got no idea where you're going, no thought in mind, other than playing with the materials that you've chosen and seeing where it takes you. And then you feel like changing to something else, change to something else. Let's have this very fine, well, it's not that fine, it's half a millimetre, 0.5 millimetres. But it's finer than the other tools I was using. And again, it's nice to try and hold things right up at the ends, so you're kind of less controlling of it, and see what kind of marks you make. Or you can hold things more sideways and see what kind of marks it makes. The answer in this case is not very many. With the charcoal pencil you will see more of a difference, so you know, if I use the point, because it's charcoal but it can be sharpened, then I'll get lines, you know, finer lines, but then if I use it on its side I can get much heavier lines. So it's also a good way to explore your materials. And yeah, there we go. Right, I'm going to do more sticking. I'm going to get some more black paper going on because, and this is a thought, if I have black paper then I can use some of my white marking tools over the top. I could also use my black gesso, and I do think I will use some black and white gesso, but then I'll have to wait for that to dry obviously, so I want to get some good layers going first. And then I'll paint and wait for that to dry and then come back again when it's dry. But for now I'm happy messing about, faffing about. Thank you so much to those of you who've given suggestions already under my last Park Home Life video. We're going to have a Word Nerd episode in a couple of weeks' time about expressions that, you know, either family members have used or expressions that you think come, you know, specifically from your region of the world or whatever. This is a bit of a napkin that I printed some circles on. Oh, I've got that the other way up. Putting the glue on the wrong side. So you can make yourself collage paper as well by mark making on them. So I don't think I've got any magazine paper or anything like that in here. I think it's all, well, there's a bit of book page probably. It's usually a bit of big book page. But this was a black napkin, and I printed circles on with white gesso using something like, it wasn't this because this is smaller, but something like a, you know, a cotton reel, or I don't know what. I've got various things I'll show you in a bit when I get to them. But you can find all kinds of stuff about the place for mark making. You don't need to go buying special mark making things, that's for sure. And I'm not really thinking about composition at all. I might later. That does tend to happen with me. When I get deeper into the process, I then start making more kind of conscious decisions, you know, or deliberate decisions is maybe a better way of putting it. So again, this was some paper that I splattered ink on. And now it's great for collage. Whoops. I must keep an eye on the weather because I have put washing out and they did say that it might rain. So if I suddenly excuse myself, then it's going to have to dash out and whoops. No, that really, I'm really, I know I keep moaning about it. I wouldn't put this artist canvas in another journal. I did think about gluing another page over it even, but I thought I'll go with it. I think unless you're actually going to paint on it, I'm getting in a real mess with the pastels, but that's part of the fun. Unless you're actually going to, you know, do a painting on it, I don't think it was the best choice. But you live and learn. This is fun. So it's got a tiny bit of colour in it, but it's mostly black and white, so I'm going with it. I made the rules so I can break them. Just got glue stick up my fingernail. Is there anything more fun than getting in a mess? Well, some people don't like it, do they? Some people don't like having messy fingers. This is a bit of paste print that I made following a tutorial by Kelly at Book and Paper Arts using corn flour and paint on, I think this was on deli paper, on newsprint. I always get those two mixed up. Anyway, it was in my friend's studio and she's got all the papers. I feel like I want to just squash that edge down because it wasn't glued down properly, so I'll do that by patching it with that little bit. Right, so I think you get the gist. So I think I'm going to go on alternating between the collage and the scribbling / mark making, and when I start doing anything different I'll come back and share that with you. I got carried away with collaging and pretty much did that, and also I shifted to using my matte medium for the most part, my Mod Podge for the most part, and every now and then my matte medium if it was thicker paper. It just wasn't sticking on this canvassy stuff. So yeah, so I've covered everything up basically. One thing I did like was when I started using the Mod Podge, it mixed with some of the mark making things that I'd used that weren't, you know, permanent, and that made interesting sort of greys here and there as well. And here I used tissue and things over so you can still see the marks through underneath here and there. So that's my that. So the next thing I want to do is do a little bit of sort of mark making with my two gessos, my white and my black. Oh, by the way, before I forget, whilst I was having my lunch and waiting for this to dry, the post came. I've got this book. Do you remember, if you were here a few weeks ago, when I did the cloak weaving? Where is it? This here. The Cloak of Protection, and I talked about the story of the Queen's Cloak and that I'd only found a few pages online. Well, it's come in the post today, so I shall read it, and in it as well, second hand, is this from the Jungle Book with the two wolves howling, which I thought was a cool little bonus. Anyway, so I will read the story and then I'll tell you next time. So you're still on tenterhooks, but there's an end in sight if you were wondering what happens to the Queen's Cloak. It's Joan Chamberlain Engelsman, or Engelsman. Yeah, there she is. What was I saying? Yes, so I'm going to do my wet stamping, and I've got various things here. I've got a inside cardboard tube from a cotton reel. I've got the old ink dauber, which has now become a mark making tool, and I could use either end. I could use that end as well. I've got a very old paintbrush cut down that's never been washed properly, and now it's all, you know, but now it's a mark making tool, not throwing it away. This is a spinny dice thing, die. You can barely see the numbers on it, but you can use it sideways as a mark making tool, basically as a stamp. And I've got two kinds of chopstick. This has got a rectangular end and a flat end, and this has got two different round ends. And finally this I picked up somewhere. I think this is an isolator, an old-fashioned ceramic isolator from an electric fence. I think I had got it in France, can't exactly remember. But I thought I might try that as well. So I'm going to have a little play with that. But basically, the world's your oyster when it comes to mark making tools. Anything and everything that makes a mark. Everybody has their favourites. I just happen to have gone with mostly circles. Can't get the lid off my gesso. There we go. And the other little tip I would say is, excuse me a minute. Right, if I'm doing anything stampy or painty, I have a bit of book page or a bit of scrap paper or something standing by to clean my things onto, and then that becomes collage paper. That's what's left of my collage. I did use quite a lot. Before I move on to this, I just want to say at one point I was just kind of observing what I was doing so I could tell you. At one point I find myself, once everything's torn into smaller bits, having a piece in my hand and going around looking for where it might go. And then as it builds up and up, then you might have areas left, and then you'll go and look for a piece to go there, or you'll tear a piece to go there. So I did a bit of both, you know, working from here's a piece, where can I put it? And working from, oh, this needs that, where can I find it? And, you know, that's what I mean about, you know, to me at least, I hope to some of you as well, it's interesting to observe yourself doing this. Right, let's try this in the gesso. I should tip some out really, but I'm worried about making a big mess, so I'm just going to be careful. So let's see what happens with this. I'm going to try it first on my book page because I think there's too much on it. Oh, cool. See, nothing's wasted. Can you see that? And it's got the ink in it still, which is mixing in a bit, but that's okay. I'm just going to do some here and there, just for fun. And if you make marks and you don't like them, you can paint over them, you can do more collage over them, you know. There's really no mistakes possible. That's a bit wet and bubbly, but it'll settle down when it dries. Should have stirred this gesso, I think. The black does seem to separate out a bit more than the white. The white doesn't do that. So that's that. So now I'll clean it on the bit of paper, a bit of book page, just any old how. And that will become collage. Fodder, some people call it. Collage fodder. There we go. And greasy. Have another bit. And let's try something smaller. Let's try this square thing. I do think I need to put some on there with a paintbrush though, otherwise I'm going to get gesso all over my fingers. I should. Let me give the gesso a stir. Excuse me. And I've been very naughty in using one of my good watercolour brushes in the gesso, and I'll be sure to wash it afterwards. Maybe, see, even now that's got that gesso on it, I could try doing this. I'll try it first on my bit of book page. This. What's this, Catherine? Oh, that's not dry. Hang on, let me just move this slightly. So, like this, for example. this movement, or I can't really get it to go round in a spiral because it's got a square end, but you get the idea. And then here where there's thick gesso, I could do this. It's playing, it's just playing. If you've never done this kind of stuff before, I hope you... and I do think in the beginning it's not, for me at least, it wasn't very instinctive. You know, it came with practice, the ideas for what to do. In the beginning you're a little bit like, oh, what should I do? But then as you experiment more, and you know, watch other people or whatever, it does become more... Oh, that's not really working. Well, that was better. It's different on different papers, of course. Let's get a bit more on it. And my quote, actually, and I have got a way of making it relevant, is from Maya Angelou, because last night I was looking for something to watch. It just made a weird blobby shape. And if you're not in Britain, you won't know, but in Britain you will know that we've got something called iPlayer, which has got a lot of the former programmes that have been on the BBC that we can watch. And I just finished watching a series on iPlayer, and I was looking for something else to watch, and this suggestion came up of it's quite an old documentary about Maya Angelou and interviews with her, and you know, and it was great. And there was footage of her reading her, it's sometimes called a song and sometimes called a poem, Human Story, or The Human Story, at the Hay Festival in Britain. And so my quote comes from that. And now as I've got this soaked up with gesso, it is doing better. Yeah, because I was thinking about black and white and how that's often used as a metaphor for polarising things, you know, two extremes. And then the documentary about Maya Angelou came up, and her song / poem, it's sometimes called one and sometimes the other, The Human Story, is very much about how, although there are all these differences between us, fundamentally we're very much the same. This is where my brain then goes. So I'm thinking about doing all these little collages with all these different scraps of paper. I got bored with my little square. I'm going to try with this roundy thing. That all these little collages are different. You know, the layout's not the same. I haven't used exactly the same papers everywhere. Ooh, that was a lot. That's quite cool though, that's making sort of well, that made a whole ring. You know, they're all different, but you can see that they were all made from the same materials. So I hope you see my metaphor there. And also the multi-layered aspect. And I have to work on my metaphor a little bit to get the gold in. I think I want to put gold later. Sorry if my head's coming in. I have to see my gesso. Yeah, I think my gold was like the little highlights of connection between people, you know, the kindness that's common to most, not everybody I know, but to most people, and I don't know. Basically I just wanted to do gold. I can just do gold if I want to, and you can't stop me. But yeah, I do like things to be you know, part of the story. And I'm so enjoying these little circles, I can't seem to stop making them. And you can just do them. See there's a lot of paint come out, but I'll just go and do a few somewhere else. And there's still a lot of paint come out. Or I'll go onto my book page if I think there's really too much. And then you can come back and take more paint off there. And just spread it about a bit. Just use that as a thing. you know, as an element, like that. And if you don't like it, just wait till it's dry and collage over it, or paint over it, you know, whatever. Right, let's stop with that now. Let's try with this very little pointy stick. That was one of the expressions that came up. It's better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. When something is, you know, not great but good enough, I think. I don't know where that one comes yet. I shouldn't start to, you know, this is for a future episode of Park Home Life if you're not up to speed, which I mentioned in the last Park Home Life. Right, I'm going to stop now with the black. I think I mentioned it earlier in this video as well. So I'm going to stop now with the black. I'm going to put my lid on. I'm going to wipe all my tools off onto my bit of book page as best I can, just so as not to waste the gesso. And I shall clean them properly if I think it's necessary. That's the wrong lid, Catherine. And now I've got my white gesso. Well, this I can use the other end. The white gesso is much thicker than the black gesso. That's kind of nice. And I'm not looking really for perfect circles, luckily, because I'm not getting them. But, oh, that was a better one. That wasn't bad. So yeah, so you get the idea. Find some, and if you don't have gesso, obviously you can use paint. You could use acrylic paint or thick watercolour paint. If you've got inks, you could have a go with your inks. I will probably be doing some inking later. So I'm going to do this, and when I think I've finished messing about with the paint and it's all dry, then I'll come back again and tell you what I'm going to do next. Okay, that's pretty much dry. Some of the thicker gesso is still a bit wet, but you know, it'll do. So now I'm going to have a go with my ink, my black ink. I've got basically 3 O's. This is an O from a big letter stamp set that I got in a charity shop, but it's got an O and a circle around it. So let's see how that works. That's quite cool. Do that here and there. One more, I just feel like one more. Let's do it up here over these other little circles. And then I've got my little stamp set that the children got me for Christmas, alphabet and numbers. So there I've got, in fact I've got 3 O's because I've got upper and lower case and 0. Let's have a go with that. Tiny little O's. It's all adding layers. Show up quite well on there. Maybe inside the smaller O's, or the smaller circles. Oh, that was like 2 little eyes with glasses on looking at you now. Let's try the letter O, see if that's different. I don't think it is actually. Didn't come out whole. No, that's exactly the same as the 0. And this is the uppercase O, so it's probably just slightly bigger. Yeah, it's just slightly bigger. So you can just go and have fun if you've got stamps and ink. So I'm probably going to go on and do quite a lot of that because I love stamping and inking. Okay, so I've done lots of little O's. I've also got my illegible writing stamp. Maybe I'll do a bit of that here and there. Just little sections of it. Put that down a minute. every which way. Actually, I tend to like it either vertically or horizontally. I don't tend to like it on the wonk. Well, that's just me. Well, that's nice. See, that's added really really a different kind of mark, because it's kind of regular but it doesn't say anything, if you know what I mean. Doesn't matter if it goes on the washi tape because that will be disappearing at the end. Sorry if my head comes in. And as you build, I just love them. I love the process, but also they just start to look really nice the more you build. I think more is definitely more. And just one more there. Yes. Right, stop with that. And let's do the Posca pens. I don't use these very much. It's acrylic paint in a pen, and these are the bullet shaped ones. And you have to shake them, they've got a little ball inside, so there will be noise. I'll do them both together. Let's see, I'll do the white one. You sometimes have to sort of press them a bit to activate them, and then well, that's working now. Well, it's quite good. Do you see those little dots? I hope you can see. At the end, I think that worked quite well last time. At the end, I would, when I've got all the tape off and I'm done, I'll do a little bit of handheld so you can see up close. Need to be on the dark really for the white to show. So yeah, this is pretty much what I do with them, is I make little dots, but you can also kind of draw with them if you want to. That's not a straight line remotely because I didn't want to get my head over the top. That's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Let's try drawing with them since I said. Do some lines maybe. Echo these. I've got these black lines here in this bit of collage paper on the white background, so I could echo with putting white lines on the black background, and then maybe just at the top I'll go back to my dots. So I'm going to go away and have some fun with my Posca pens for a little minute, and then I'll let those dry because it is acrylic paint, so you do have to give it a minute. And then when I've done that, I'll be back, possibly with some gold, maybe with some more mark making, who knows. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, I've finished with my Posca pens. Yeah, I've sort of outlined some of the edges of some of the collage. I've done dots, I've done little lines, I've done all kinds of squiggling about. And before I do my kind of final little doodly bits at the end, which I want to go back in with some of my finer black and white marking pens, I want to do my gold splatters. Now I have fashioned myself a screen out of a bit of cardboard box, just to protect my window a bit, so it'll probably cast a shadow. So apologies for that. I'm just going to get my big paintbrush, get lots of water in my gold paint, get it really juicy. And then I'm going to just splatter, because I just loved the look of the gold splatters last week. Maybe a bit more water. And then I think when I've splattered and it's dry, I can get the tape off, because and what I like to do then right at the very end is just go in, like I said, with the finer pointed tools and just do some last little doodles. A bit more water. Ooh. Yeah, I did realise that it didn't really show up on the video particularly well, but you could see the gold on the little handheld at the end last week. Put my screen in a strategic position. I think everything from now on is going to have gold splatters on it. It does seem to There is gold paint on the screen, so it's doing something. Could maybe have been a bit higher. So yeah, I'll go ahead and splatter away till my heart's content and let that dry, and then I'll be back to take the tape off and do my final little bits and bobs, which I might do off camera because my head will get in the way. Oh, I just love this gold. And then we'll write the quote on. So I'll see you in a little while. No time at all for you. A little while for me. Okay, I've got the screen away. I don't know if you can see if I hold it up to you. Can you see the gold? I don't know if you can see. I can, and it's yummy. And I clean my brush on the bit of book page, so I'm going to have gold collage papers as well. Right, so I think if I'm careful I can get the tape off. Washi tape should come off okay. Someone told me recently in the under my Kofi video, I've got gold under my washi tape, never mind, that if you had trouble with masking tape getting it off, you could heat it with a hairdryer a little bit. Just you know, blow it with a hairdryer, and then it would sort of melts the glue a little bit, and then it comes off more easily. So I'm just passing that tip on in case you didn't know. There's nothing more satisfying. I shall keep this because you can use it again. I'll just stick it over there on the edge of my desk for now. I'm a bit annoyed that I've got a little bit of gold on my paper there. Be alright. I'm trying to remember what order I put it on. One tip as well, or one thing just to look out for, I should have mentioned, is when you're collaging, you must be careful. Be careful not to stick it over your washi tape. It just makes it... You can't get the washi tape off then, and you might tear your collage. If it does happen and you've got an X-Acto knife or a craft knife, you can just very carefully go and trim the edge of your collage a little bit. I should have mentioned that earlier, really. I'm doing this on camera because I love to see it, so I didn't want to deprive you either if you also love to see it. Oops. And they suddenly come into their own as little individual canvases almost. And you know, you don't have to do squares. I just find squares pleasing. You could do little rectangles if you wanted to. You could draw circles. You could draw around something and do grid journaling in circles if that spoke to you more. You know, it's just that principle of having several little areas to work in at the same time, so that you don't get precious about any one area. I'll sort all my washi tape out later, wrap it around a bit of something that it won't stick to permanently. All hanging off the edge of the desk. If Fred gets in that, he will be a washi tape tangle. This is stuck to itself. There you go. Look at that lovely clean edge when you tear the tape away. I don't know if that gold paint is completely dry actually, but I might just give it a little bit longer before I start my final doodlings. And probably it'll be quite difficult for me to show you my final doodlings because my head's going to get in the way. But basically what I'll do is I'll get my finer pens, my black pens, and my white gel pen and my gold gel pen, and just go and do some little dots and lines and, you know, whatever I feel like, just here and there. And then when I've done that, I shall come back again and look at that last piece. Ta-da! I should come back again and write on the Maya Angelou words. Not exactly sure where yet, but they'll be somewhere. So I'll see you in a little while. But just before I do, look at that. I'm so pleased with that. That is such fun, so satisfying to do. And yeah, with all the many layers that you build up, yeah, I just love it. I need to do it more. Every time I do it, I say to myself, I need to do it more. Anyway, I'm going to wait for the paint to dry, do my doodles, and then I'll be back for the last bit. Okay, so that's all my doodling done. So I used my black gel pen, my white gel pen, and the gold gel pen, basically, those three. And I did some little dots here and there, bigger dots. I drew some very rough little circles. I outlined some of the pieces of collage. I did a lot of these lines, and I realised as I was doing it that that was inspired by the bits of barcode. And then some of the lines that I'd done, I cross-hatched them in a different colour. And I've been maybe another half an hour or more doing that. And it's great fun, and at one point you just have to say stop. Well, you don't just have to, but you know, you can go on and on if you like. I hope you'll have a go if you haven't yet, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And I've written my quote from Maya Angelou down at the bottom there, which says, "We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike." And I just think those are wonderful words. And yeah, I'm very happy with my afternoon's work. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll enjoy it if you have a go, and I look forward to you joining me next time for more journaling tales. Bye bye.